It's February 18th, 1991. Operation Desert Storm is raging. The USS Tripoli is cutting through the northern Persian Gulf. And then, without warning, the entire ship shudders. An Iraqi contact mine hit the USS Tripoli. The explosion rips a 16 by 20-foot hole straight through her hull below the waterline. That's roughly the size of a small bedroom, punched clean through steel. 4 sailors are injured. Somehow, not a single crew member dies. But what most people never talk about is that Tripoli doesn't stop. Her damage control teams fight to keep her afloat, while her MH-53EC Dragon helicopters keep flying, actively sweeping the very minefield that nearly killed her. Iraq had laid an estimated 1,300 mines across the Persian Gulf. Tripoli sailed straight into that nightmare and kept working. And it gets worse, or better, depending on how you look at it. Now, before we talk about the legendary ship itself, we need to talk about the name and history first. The Tripoli isn't just a word the Navy picked randomly off a map. It carries a serious, historical, almost intimidating weight. And once you understand where it comes from, everything about this ship starts making a lot more sense. It goes all the way back to 1801. America was barely 25 years old. The country had no real army to speak of, no established navy, and frankly, no reputation on the world stage. That was the time when the Barbary pirates of North Africa decided to test them. The Pasha of Tripoli, what is modern-day Libya, declared war on the United States and started seizing American merchant ships, kidnapping sailors, and demanding ransom payments. At the time, the US was already paying $1 million annually, roughly 10% of the entire federal budget, just to keep these pirates from attacking. President Jefferson decided enough was enough, so America sent 8 Navy vessels across the Atlantic, the very first American military force ever deployed overseas. What followed was a 4-year campaign from 1801 to 1805 that ended with a moment that would be written into the Marine Corps forever. Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon led a ragtag force of 8 Marines and 400 mercenaries on a 500-mile desert march from Egypt to Tripoli, and raised the American flag over a foreign fortress for the first time in history. That line you've heard, "To the shores of Tripoli," that's exactly what it's referencing. They named it after America's greatest underdog moment. But was it? Now wait till you see what they actually built. The USS Tripoli, hull designation LPH-10, was commissioned on August 6, 1966, at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. She was part of the Iwo Jima class of amphibious assault ship, a class named after another battle that defined American military identity. The American Navy built ships that were meant to embody a legacy. She was a serious piece of engineering, 592 feet long, with a full load displacement of around 18,000 tons. She could carry approximately 2,000 fully equipped Marines, a full air group of helicopters, and everything those Marines would need to hit a coastline and hold it. At the time of her commissioning, she cost approximately $40 million, which in today's money translates to roughly $380 million. That's a significant investment for 1966, and the Navy expected a return. What made her genuinely revolutionary was her concept. The Iwo Jima class was the world's first ship class designed exclusively for helicopter assault operations. This was the Cold War doctrine of vertical envelopment in physical form. Instead of sending Marines into the teeth of a defended beachhead, the way Iwo Jima itself was fought in 1945, with nearly 7,000 American deaths in 36 days, you'd fly them over the defenses entirely, drop them behind enemy lines, eliminate the bloodiest part of an amphibious assault before it even starts. On paper, she looks like the most advanced amphibious ship ever built. We agree to it. However, in reality, things are different. Her first real test, a war America was already losing. By the time USS Tripoli reached her operational prime, the Vietnam War was entering its most chaotic and politically devastating phase. She was deployed to the Western Pacific as part of America's massive naval presence in the region. This included hundreds of warships and over 500,000 US troops on the ground in Southeast Asia. Tripoli's role was power projection, marine mobility, and readiness. But then came April 1975. And this is where Tripoli steps directly into one of the most dramatic moments in modern American history. Saigon was falling. The North Vietnamese army was closing in. The US embassy was surrounded. Decades of American strategy in Southeast Asia were collapsing in real time, on live television in front of the entire world. What followed was Operation Frequent Wind, the largest helicopter evacuation in history. Over 19 hours on April 29th to 30th, 1975, US forces used approximately 70 helicopters operating across multiple Navy ships to evacuate nearly 7,000 people. These were American personnel, South Vietnamese allies, and civilians trapped in a city that was hours away from being completely overrun. USS Tripoli was part of that task force. She stood offshore as those helicopters flew back and forth for landing, offloading, refueling, and launching again, until Saigon was gone. The last helicopter lifted off the US Embassy roof at 7:53 a.m. on April 30th, 1975. Within hours, the city fell. It was not a victory, but it was a display of what American naval capability looked like under maximum pressure. She survived the fall of Saigon. She survived the Cold War, 16 years of clean service. Then one morning in the Persian Gulf, the ocean floor had other plans. And that might surprise you. An Iran-based mine, which hit Tripoli during Operation Desert Storm in 1991. Tripoli had a hole in her hull, yet Tripoli kept fighting. On the other hand, the USS Princeton, a far more modern Ticonderoga-class cruiser, also hit two mines nearby and was knocked completely out of action. Princeton had newer technology, better systems, and far more armor, and Princeton limped away. Calculated risk? Might be. Shocking. For sure. That contrast revealed the US Navy had a serious, dangerous gap in mine countermeasure capabilities, a lesson that cost them dearly. USS Tripoli was officially decommissioned on September 26, 1995, after 29 years of continuous service. From Vietnam to the Gulf War, she served across 3 decades of American military history. And then, quietly, with no fanfare, she was sold for scrapping. But the name? The name never died. On July 15, 2020, the United States Navy commissioned the brand new USS Tripoli, hull classification LHA-7, an America-class amphibious assault ship. And this new Tripoli is on a completely different scale. She displaces approximately 45,000 tons at full load. That's more than double the old LPH-10. She stretches 844 feet long, costs approximately $3.5 billion, and is designed to launch F-35B stealth fighter jets directly from her deck. The old Tripoli carried helicopters. The new one carries 5th-generation stealth aircraft. To put that cost in perspective, LPH-10 was built for roughly $40 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's around $380 million today. LHA-7 costs $3.5 billion. That's nearly 10 times more, a number that tells you exactly how much the stakes have changed. But what didn't change is one name that refuses to die. Tripoli became a bloodline running through American naval history, and every time the world forgot that, another USS Tripoli showed up to remind them. That's what we call a real legacy,